A mother ran south. Left her son behind. Told him wait here. I'll come back in 3 days. That was 1950. She never came back. He waited 70 years. They reunited in 2018. He was 80 years old. She was dead. He was crying at a photograph. This is what one line on a map did to an entire nation. 750,000 families separated. As of 2024, only 39,000 members still alive in the South. Over 70% already dead. Never reunited. Never saw each other again. Never even knew if the other was alive. For 70 years. Both sides. A wall didn't divide Korea. A line did. Drawn by 2 men. In 30 minutes. Who had never visited the country. Ever. This is documented. Military records. UN archives. Survivor testimony. Korean government files. Subscribe now because this story reveals how superpowers carved up nations like cutting bread. How democracy was never offered. How an entire civilization was sacrificed on the altar of Cold War strategy. August 1945. When Korea was finally free. For exactly 14 days. Context matters. Before the split, Korea suffered 35 years under Japan. 1910 to 1945. Brutal occupation. Korean language banned in schools. Korean names erased. Koreans forced to take Japanese names. Cultural genocide. Thousands executed for resistance. Millions forced into labor. The Korean people endured. Survived. Kept their identity underground. Then 1945 came. Japan surrendered. Korea was free. Finally. After generations of suffering. Free. August 15, 1945. Japan surrendered. Korea united. For 14 days, Koreans organized themselves. A government formed. The Committee for the Preparation of Korean Independence. All parties. Left. Right. Center. Working together. Building a nation. Then August 29. The Soviet Union occupied the North. The United States occupied the South. Democracy was never offered. Self-governance was never given. Korea's freedom lasted 2 weeks. Then the superpowers arrived. August 10, 1945. Washington, D.C. Pentagon. Emergency meeting. Japan surrendered. Soviet troops already moving into northern Korea. Fast. Too fast. American troops hadn't arrived yet. Someone needed to draw a line. Stop the Soviets. 2 officers assigned. Dean Rusk. Charles Bonesteel. Both young. Neither had ever been to Korea. Neither spoke Korean. They had 30 minutes. And a National Geographic map. Why the 38th parallel? Simple reasons. It divided the country roughly in half. It kept Seoul, the capital, in the American zone. It was easy to find on the map. That's it. No geographic logic. No cultural logic. No historical significance. The line crossed rivers, mountains, villages, farms. Cut through neighborhoods. Split towns in half. Split families in half. Geography didn't matter. Politics did. Seoul staying American mattered. Nothing else. Soviet troops arrived first. Already in the north before Americans reached the south. They brought Kim Il-sung. A Korean communist who'd fought Japanese occupation from exile in China and the Soviet Union. They installed him as leader. Genuine hero of resistance. But also perfectly controllable. The Soviets didn't build North Korea. They shaped it. Around one man. Around one ideology. Communism. Wrapped in Korean nationalism. A recipe for dictatorship. Americans arrived September 8. 3 weeks after the Soviets. Already behind. They chose Syngman Rhee. Korean nationalist. Lived in exile in America for decades. Anti-communist. Pro-Western. But also authoritarian. Ruthless. The Americans needed someone who opposed communism. Requalified. His democratic credentials. Irrelevant. His willingness to serve American interests. Everything. South Korea wasn't built for Koreans. It was built against communism. Different motivations. Same result. Foreign powers deciding Korean destiny. 1946 the line hardened. Crossing the 38th parallel required a permit. Then permits stopped being issued. Communication between North and South cut. Families separated by bureaucracy. Not by war yet. By paperwork. By policy. The line on a National Geographic map became an iron curtain. Before any shots were fired. Before any war. The division was already complete. 2 governments. 2 economies. 2 futures. For 1 people. Decided in 30 minutes by 2 Americans. August 1948. 2 separate elections. 2 separate constitutions. 2 separate nations born. North Korea. Democratic People's Republic of Korea. South Korea. Republic of Korea. Both claimed to be the real Korea. Both wanted to reunify. Under their terms. The UN wanted elections across the entire peninsula. The Soviet Union refused. 1 nation became 2. Officially. Permanently. The world accepted it. Korea never did. June 25, 1950. 4 a.m. 90,000 North Korean soldiers crossed the 38th parallel. Soviet tanks. Artillery. Overwhelming force. Kim Il-sung believed he could reunify Korea quickly. Stalin approved it. The South Korean army. Unprepared. Undertrained. Outgunned. Seoul fell in 3 days. The war that both sides wanted to avoid happened because both sides wanted to win. Korea's Civil War became the world's first Cold War battle. And the world's deadliest forgotten conflict. The Korean War destroyed Korea. Completely. More bombs were dropped on Korea between 1950 and 1953 than on all of Asia and the Pacific during World War II. Every major city flattened. Pyongyang. Seoul. Incheon. Busan. Villages erased. Forests burned. Rivers turned red. One major general testified before Congress: the entire Korean peninsula is just a terrible mess. Everything is destroyed. There is nothing standing worthy of the name. An entire civilization reduced to rubble. By outsiders, war fought on Korean soil. 4 million dead. Conservative estimate. Soldiers. Civilians. Korean. Chinese. American. But mostly Korean. The civilian death rate was higher than World War II. Higher than Vietnam. Massacres on both sides. South Korea massacred suspected communists. North Korea massacred suspected nationalists. Neighbors killing neighbors. Brothers fighting brothers. A civil war turned international. The people paying the price? Always the people. Never the politicians who drew the line. Over 1 million North Koreans fled south during the war. Left everything behind. Homes. Possessions. Most critically, family. Fathers who said, "I'll come back for you." Never came back. Mothers carrying one child, leaving another behind because they couldn't carry both. Children separated in stampedes of millions running south. They believed the war would end quickly. They'd return. Go home. See family. The armistice said otherwise. The border sealed. Forever. Home was now unreachable. Family was now unreachable. Forever meant forever. July 27, 1953. Armistice signed. Not peace. Armistice. Ceasefire. War paused. Not ended. The border? Exactly where it started. The 38th parallel. 3 years of war. 4 million dead. And the map looked the same as 1945. Nothing changed geographically. Everything changed humanly. The fighting stopped. The division became permanent. And the world called it resolution. The Koreans called it something else entirely. The DMZ. 4 kilometers wide. 2.5 miles. Stretching 250 kilometers across the peninsula. The most heavily militarized border on Earth. 1 million landmines. Artillery positioned on both sides. Soldiers on both sides trained to kill on sight. Watchtowers every few hundred meters. Nobody crosses. Nobody. Since 1953, the DMZ has killed more people in peacetime than most wars. It is a wound on the earth. A physical scar matching Korea's emotional one. Visible from space. Permanent. 70 years and counting. The divided families. The wound that never heals. 128,000 South Koreans registered to find relatives in the north. After decades of silence, governments allowed reunions. Brief. Supervised. Monitored. 20 reunions total between 2000 and 2015. Families got 3 days together. After 50 years apart. Some reunited with parents. Some with siblings. Some arrived to learn their family died years ago. In 2018, the last reunions happened. Then North Korea closed the door again. The elderly are dying. Every year, fewer remain. The clock runs out. And nobody stops it? 2024, 79 years since the line was drawn. The two Koreas couldn't be more different. South Korea. Democracy. Technology. K-pop. One of the world's largest economies. North Korea. Totalitarian dictatorship. Nuclear weapons. Famine. Isolation. Same people. Same language. Same culture 5 generations ago. Different worlds now. Created by a line on a map. By 2 men. In 30 minutes. The consequences of 30 minutes have lasted 80 years. And they're not over. Dean Rusk later admitted he had no idea what he was doing. Said if he'd known the 38th parallel had been discussed before by Japan and Russia, he would have chosen a different line. Bone steel. Same. Neither man spoke Korean. Neither visited Korea before or after drawing that line. The most consequential border in modern history was drawn in 30 minutes. By 2 men. With a National Geographic map. 4 million people died because of it. 750,000 families were destroyed because of it. A nation's soul was torn in half because of it. And the world moved on. Because it wasn't their country. It was never their country. It was just a line on a map. To them. To Korea. It was everything. It is still everything. And it will be everything. For generations yet to come.